Hello humans, Retro Rocket Man back again with another video. This time around I've managed to get hold of this Fisher Price fire station, and it's a kid's toy. It's missing a few things. It's missing a ramp at the back and a ladder here, and it's been knocked around a fair bit. It's got some unusual staining on it, and it's missing a few other things like a crane and some flagpoles, all sort of typical play feature stuff. But I'm going to endeavour to dirty this thing down and repaint it and render it, give the usual Retro Rocket Man treatment. I'm going to have to remove some of these play features because they're not really relevant for what I want to do. Going to try and keep all the opening and closing features, and I think it should turn out pretty nice when everything's said and done. I'll just put my typical tag. I'll just make it look like a Retro Rocket Man item. So for starters, to take it apart, I'm going to have to warm up some of the plastic parts, and this will make it easier to get them out. This pole, for one thing, has got to go, so I want to take that out. So I'm heating up the plastic, and it's a bit hard, but I got it out. These doors and windows were very difficult to get out. They're all snapped in place. They needed a fair bit of jimmying and prizing before I got them out, and the other parts were just typically just screwed in. So I'm just taking out the play feature mechanism here. Don't need that. Now they're all apart, I can freely spray them. So I'm hitting all these parts here which I want to paint silver. So I'm hitting it with a grey primer undercoat first. Get rid of all the plastic look. And then once that's dried, I'm going to go over it with chrome silver. Just coat everything. So I'm spraying the doors, the windows, the balustrades and the fire escape. So here they are, all nice and shiny and brand new looking. But that's not going to do. I've got to make these look old and weathered. So I've sprayed them silver to begin with, and I'm going to be masking out certain areas, and then I'm going to spray it red. Now I'm going to be using plasticine to mask out those areas. When I spray them red and you remove the plasticine later, it leaves the silver to come through, and it gives you that chipped and weathered look. So just putting bits of plasticine in random places, here, there. And then I'm roughing up the edges so they're not quite smooth. This will make it look like aged and weathered and damaged doors. So I'm painting the everything red now. So while that's drying, I'm going to use the trusty black shoe polish, and I'm going to weather and age this fire escape. It's too shiny and new, can't stay that way. So simply going to liberally apply the shoe polish just haphazard. There's no real method. I'm just basically keeping to one section at a time. And I'm going to plaster the shoe polish all over, let it get into all those corners and creases, and then I'm going to wipe off the excess while it's still wet. And of course, naturally, it's going to leave some residue behind, and it's going to give that silver and aged look. You can see there, it's all streaky and patchy. It's been out in the weather, it's been exposed, it's copped a lot of grime. It's just not brand new, and it also gives it that tarnished look. Makes it a little bit more realistic. And now the final touch is to add a bit of rust using brown shoe polish, and I'll be applying this a bit more sporadically, just little bits here and there to create water stains and rust stains. And this just gives it a new level, a different sort of depth, more interest. And it really grunges it up and dirties it down. So by just applying the shoe polish in a streaky fashion, dotting it here and there with the brush, not trying to be too heavy with it, you can really create water affected metal. And you calm it down by just patting it with the rag and help blend it as well. Quite effective, really. Red paint is now dry, and now I'm going to remove the plasticine masking, and you'll see the silver pop through straight away. This will give the effect of chipped paint. This is always a bit of fun, taking this part of the process, because it gives you a nice reveal. So having applied the plasticine in different places all over, it's created that chipped paint effect. The same on the windows, on the balustrades and handrails. Makes everything look worn and weathered. Once that process is done, it's time to dirty it down a bit more with some brown shoe polish, and this will give me a dirty, rusty look to those, especially to those exposed silver areas. I'm just brushing it in a streaky fashion and then wiping it off in a similar fashion, creating streaks as I go. Apply this method to not only the doors but the other red parts as well. And as an added touch, I'm putting some black shoe polish just to give it a bit of dirt and deeper staining. Just by carefully brushing on little bits here, not doing it too much. You can always build on more if you don't feel it's enough. It's a lot easier to put it on than it is to take it off. And then just removing the excess with the rag until I get the look I like. Having it heavier in some areas and lighter in others. Now it's time to turn my attention to the window surrounds, frames, I don't know what you'd call them, some sort of masonry architecture feature. It's on the windows and the doors, and I'm going to chip and crack and rough them up, because after all, this building is quite dilapidated. That's my theme that I'm after, the look that I want. I'm using an X-Acto knife here, and I'm being very careful not to cut myself. I do not want to slip and slice my finger, so I'm very mindful of that. And I'm also creating chips and cracks in the brickwork. Again, I'm very mindful about the knife and that it could suddenly slip, so I want to keep it well away from my fingers as much as possible. This is a spack filler pre-mixed in the tube, and I'm going to use that to create a render that's cracked and broken and only partially covering the brickwork. So I'm going to have a render finish with exposed bricks. So I'm going to try and trail this stuff on. It did take a little bit of work to get it to stick. It wanted to move around a fair bit, but in the end I got used to it, and it will turn out quite good, I'm pretty sure. It's already starting to give me that look that I want. A rough concrete render gives you that impression with the exposed brick underneath. So I'm just applying it in certain areas here and there, pretty much making it up as I go along, and it's got a rough texture to it, which is the look that I want as well. Now I'm applying the black shoe polish again to the base plates. So brush it all over and then wipe it off till I get the intensity that I want. Where it's going to bring out all those sculpted lines in the fake concrete. And I'm also going to make them patchy and dirty, so that they look like they've shown years of use, and foot traffic, cars and whatnot. This is the timber floor that was inside the building, very plain moulded plastic, so I want to bring out the sculpt that's in it. It's got a timber look sculpt in it. So by applying the shoe polish the same way as I did with the concrete base plates, and then wipe it off, it reveals all that lovely sculpt work, and it starts to look more like a timber floor. Just keep wiping it back until I've got enough excess off. And now I'm going to, once that's dry, I'm going to apply some brown shoe polish all over it as well, and that'll really give it a richer, deeper timber type colour. I'm being a bit more gentle with the application here because I Don't want to ruin too much of the black finish. And by applying it in a streaky fashion in the direction that the boards run, should give me the look that I want. There, that looks 10 times better. Now I'm applying brown shoe polish to the window masonry surrounds, the window sills and whatnot. And this is going to age and weather them because they're just too clean. And also highlight the sculpted features in that architecture as well. Not one little bit is going to escape weathering or aging on this building. This is the rooftop, and naturally being a flat roof, it's going to collect dirt and grime over the years as well, so it's going to need the aging and weathering process too. And the brown shoe polish is giving me the look that I want, so I'm going to keep following it with that. Brush it on in patches, wipe it off, and then intensify it in other areas just by lightly dabbing it with the brush. I've undercoated the building now that all the spac filler has dried, and I'm just going to give it another coat of white, a flat white, and this will hopefully get into all those mortar lines between the brickwork and also around the windows as well. So now I want to give the brickwork, the patterns, different colours, not just one single colour. So I'm doing various bricks here and there with different coloured browns, just to make it look a lot more interesting. And that white mortar is coming through between the bricks now that I've painted them. And the remaining render, I'm giving it a light brown tone just to emulate old render that's remaining behind after some of it has fallen off. Found that the bricks were way too dark for my liking, so I'm giving them a whitewash with some white shoe polish just to calm down and unify the tones a bit more, but you can still appreciate all the different bricks through the white because it's still quite transparent. This is a downpipe that I've made from a couple of drinking straws and some wooden dowel shoved in there to give it strength. And I'm using some milliput to create the brackets which hold the downpipe to the wall. And then just poking a couple of holes in each side to emulate screws. Now I just want to put the signage back on, and I printed this on my printer, fire station emblem, fire service emblem. Just PVAing that on, and then I'm going to coat the top of it with some more PVA to protect and strengthen it. There's a barrel of slime I've had kicking around for a long time. It's got to be at least 15 years old, and the slime is still in there. It's black slime, like oily goo. What I want to do is paint this barrel up and make it look like a real barrel and situate it next to my fire station. And here it is. The same process as I did the doors and windows. Undercoated, sprayed it silver, put some plasticine on it and then sprayed it red, and then took it off and weathered it with black shoe polish. And now I want to put a label on it, and I found this online and printed it out. Rocket motor oil. Perfect, I think. And I've just roughened up the edges and applied it the same way as I did the signage on the building. PVA glue, and then coated in a protective coating of the same stuff. I'm not too worried about it being messy because it dries absolutely clear. Looks like I bought one. I also thought I'd do some movie posters on the side of the building, just to give it some more interest, maybe a tad more realism. So I found a couple of old movie posters that I printed on from online, and I also need to distress and age these. So I'm tearing up the corners while it's still wet, just to give it some random weathering damage, and I'm peeling the corners as well as if they're flapped over, just to give it a bit more interest. And I'm doing the other side as well in the same vein. So I've glued it on with PVA, and I've given it a protective coat of PVA, and then I'm taking the edges off. So there you have it, humans. This is Retro Rocket Man. I hope you enjoyed my latest video. I'm really quite pleased with the way this turned out. This was another big one. Took me quite a few days, not in any particular order, so all over probably about a week to knock this up. But in the end, I think it was well worth it. It's gone from that little cheap toy to something that's much more displayable. So this is Retro Rocket Man signing off. Over and out.